Hello, everyone. Welcome to another round table thingy. Still
been,
me and Dwibs. It's been a while. Yeah.
a year.
Uh, well, a year and a bit. Last I think it was the Magnificent Seven, but well, we had something in mind in between, but the recording did not went as expected, so we just waited until the right occasion, which is this one. Aka Murder of the Orient Express, made in 2017 and recorded for me as soon as I saw it, like this same day, a couple of hours ago. So it's still fresh in my mind.
I saw it
Uh,
last month.
well, I hope you remember something, Dweebs, because of your
Uh,
memory.
yes, I do actually.
Anyway, for context, we also watched and commented on the 1974 movie, although we haven't uploaded yet the commentary of it. Maybe sometime later after this, we'll see. And I also read a book about when I was extremely young, so I remember practically nothing of it, so I don't know how much of an adaptation this is. And me and Reeves also saw on separate ways the David Suchet TV episode from the TV series dedicated to Hercule Poirot.
I haven't.
I thought you were. Whatever. The point is, there have been several adaptations, so I know where to compare stuff. Okay. Dweebs, you want to get technical?
Yes, it was directed and written. No, not written. Sorry, it was directed and co-produced by Kenneth Branagh, who you might know off this Galadriel Lockhart from the Harry Potter movies.
And surprisingly enough, produced by a couple of people, including Ridley Scott. Like, okay.
I guess that's all he mostly does nowadays. I guess, although he still directs every now and again. And it was written by Michael Green, who's had a pretty busy 2017. He's been the co-writer of stuff like Logan and Blade Runner 2049.
Who was the composer?
Branagh's usual guy, Patrick Doyle.
Okay. I had to say now the score was not. Sorry, go ahead.
Another thing about Michael Green, he was one of the writers of Green Lantern.
Oh,
and that was his. And after that, and a few episodes of a show called The River, he dropped off the face of the earth until this year.
I guess he needed some spiritual retirement or something. Also, in order to homage the 1974 film, this movie also has quite the stellar cast. One major point of the 74 movie was to have actors that at the time were extremely famous, like Sean Connery, Albert Finney, or oh god, I forgot the name, Ingrid Bergman, for example. And this one is no exception, although it's updated for modern times with actors that are tied to our system, like, as we mentioned, Kenneth Branagh himself as Hercule Poirot, but we have people like Penelope Cruz, Johnny Depp, William Dafoe, of all people. So Michelle Pfeiffer, so, important people. Anyway, I'm not going to comment on the entire story because it's pretty much the same as the 1974 movie and the original story, so I'm going to, pick the major difference that I see. I'm going to use as a major point of comparison the 1974 movie because, again, my experience with the book is so deteriorated at this point that I don't remember. I should probably read it again.
This is actually the fourth time this has been put on screen, apparently. There was...
Yeah, the first it was the 1974 movie, then there was a 2001 TV film, but I don't remember that. Then the episode of the TV series of Poirot, and then
2010.
this. Yeah.
Took them a while to get to it.
Well, I guess they wanted to, pump things up.
But the series started in like the late 80s. It took them until 2010.
Now, if you're one of the two people who don't know who Hercule Poirot is, he's one of the two major characters of Agatha Christie's famous mystery writers Agatha Christie's novels, the other being Miss Marple. Essentially, Hercule Poirot is a detective from Belgium who has an extremely high intellect and spirit of deducing, similar to Sherlock Holmes, pretty much. And his main stick is to run around the world and resolving mysteries here and there. Some of them commissioned by people, others happening by accident, like in this case. But essentially, in this case, he improvises and solves the mystery.
he solves he solves mystery using intellect and the uncanny ability to divorce himself from any emotional connections to it.
Yeah, and if I had to start with something, I say that this movie has a particular, angle of Poirot's character. The 74 movie was straightforward. I mean, Poirot in that movie was like a jolly old guy, jolly middle-aged guy who just enjoyed life and just solved the case because.
It's like to me, that guy kind of yelled all his lines.
True. I remember doing because I had to saw the original, the Italian dub first for that movie too, so I don't know the proper comparison. David Suchet gave a more sophisticated approach to the character, but still very contained. This Poirot is a fucking asshole. Not in a negative way. Let's just say that they pick the aspect much like with Sherlock Holmes, but due to his high intellect and deducing skills, he's very reclusive. He doesn't want to be much of a part of the world that's around him. He just wants to have his little space to live in and only interact with the things he needs to when he needs to, obviously. And quite a lot of time express his discontent for the people around him and humanity in general. It's quite sociopathic in this movie, which is kind of the angle that Agatha Christie wanted to put the character age on. So good that they captured the experience. Now, to sum up the plot very easily and without proper spoilers, at least for now, Poirot in this case is actually traveling from Istanbul to Europe. Actually, he needs to go to London for solving a case that Scotland Yard has requested him. But the problem is, and on the train he's in, the aptly named Orient Express, which is an actual train that actually ran for a lot of decades. I don't know if it's running still to this day.
Yeah, spoiler, someone gets murdered.
Yeah, someone gets murdered on it, and since the train conveniently gets stuck for like 3 days, 1 or 2 days, due to heavy snow in the middle of Eastern Europe mountains, Poirot is quite convinced by the train's director to take the case on himself and try to solve it in a speedrun kind of way. Like, you need to solve it really fast.
Yeah. You have to. Can you imagine? I just thought of something. What if what if that was a case of Poirot had to solve in like 10 minutes or something bad would happen? Poirot, if you do not solve this case within 10 minutes, I will blow up the city.
That's like a superhero story. Anyway, that's pretty much the premise, and obviously the characters on the train are as quirky as you can imagine, and there may be something more to it than it may appear at first. That's the key point of his story. Anyway, to talk about this specific film, a thing that I noticed immediately is that how the movie starts. One of the things that centers around one of the recurring themes is a murder of the past, something about a case of a family called the Armstrongs. The 74 movie starts immediately with a flashback of that kind of establishes things, but it's just for foreshadowing later on. This movie doesn't do it like until halfway through, and even
this one starts in Jerusalem, where
when Poirot is solving one of its cases. It's actually a good thing to me because one, it establishes the character, and two, it explains a plot point that in the original movie was just glossed over. If you don't remember, Dwibs, in the original movie, while Poirot is escorted to the boat, that guy that escorting him, like the British Army guy, say, "Oh, thanks by the way for solving that thing in Jerusalem." That's essentially what in this movie we actually see how he does, and it's essentially a good establishing character moment.
What happens in it is that there's been a robbery committed, and they're outside the Wailing Wall trying to find out who did it.
And it's like a joke because there are a rabbi, a priest, and an imam. So
they all walked into a bar.
Yeah, even Poirot himself lampshades it, but eventually Poirot solves immediately the thing due to his ingenious intellect and manages to calm the mass because of it. Because if you don't remember, Jerusalem has always been a very unstable ground when it comes to.
In case you're wondering who the culprit was, it was actually the chief sergeant there.
It's a classic case of the people in control wanting to, steer a rebellion in order to create a convenient drama for them to gain more power. You have to remember also one thing. This movie, the story of this movie takes place in 1934, And unlike the 74 movie, this one doesn't, hides its time period. There are frequent references to how the European countries are completely in shit state, and how discrimination is also a thing. Like, there are not Nazis are not mentioned specifically by name, but there are mentioned several racism against the Jews and black people. So there is a thing to that. Unlike the movie, which the other movie, which just glossed it over.
I don't know if they
Anyway.
had enough time or budget to do that one.
I think it was more a product of the time, Dwibs, in a sense that they wanted to be more soft in that regard.
Well, that, and I reckon they probably spent like a quarter of their budget getting Sean Connery.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, one of the character which was played by Sean Connery here actually is played by a black guy. I forgot who he is. I think it's Leslie Odom Jr. called.
Yeah, I never heard of that guy before.
Let me check his biography in the meantime while I say. Essentially, they combined for this version two characters into one, because in the original, the 74 movie, the character called Abarnot was a military colonel, stationed in India and then returning to Britain with the Orient Express. Here they combine this character with the doctor, which was Dr. Constantine in 74 movie, a Greek doctor. Here they combine the two characters into one. Now he's essentially a doctor, but he still has his relationship with Miss Bodum. And pour over hears them on the boat and everything. So anyway, another important thing is also that the train director, which in the 74 movie was called Bianchi, Italian, while here instead we stick to the original book and call him, Book, because he's French. And he's very young, played by Tom Bateman. Don't know, but he's a relatively recent actor. Like, he started in 2013 with The Tunnel and Da Vinci's Demons. So, but I think he did a good impression here, at least, for what he was doing. The thing is, to me, is that it seems they didn't use him that much, the character. Anyway, then there are also some other subtle changes, like the religious girl, Najab, in the 74 movie was Swedish. In here, the one played by Penelope Cruz is also Spanish.
Oh yeah,
so
Penelope Cruz is also Spanish.
Yeah. So obviously we need some minor changes, but overall the characters' personalities feel still intact. Like, there's another case I forgot. There's a character they completely wasted, which in the original 74 movie was Swashbuckling. It's the one who was the chauffeur for the Armstrong. In the original it was called Swashbuckling in Italian. This time is an Hispanic. I think it's called Marquez, and he's played by Manuel Garcia Ralfo. But he has like a screen time of 5 minutes in the movie or something.
He was meant to be played by Michael Pena, but he dropped out. So
I guess they didn't have much time to film his scene. But seriously, his presence is extremely minimal, and it's a shame, honestly. Anyway. The rest of the movie pretty much unfolds as you may expect, but the difference also starts from the beginning, because in the original movie, the 74 movie, the train just stops because there is no one on the tracks. Here, for some reason, a lightning bolt strikes a mountain, and the train is invested by an avalanche. Like, God is not pleased with this train.
Did God find out that a murder was committed and decide to punish them all?
Probably. And also, it's an extremely weird moment because the CGI in that scene is awful. Like, there is some
odd. I mean, I guess. I think Branagh was fine with CGI in 4 and
but not just that.
I guess here he just had a lesser budget.
And not just that, there is some CGI in the movie, but like when there is a view of Jerusalem, which is fantastic, and the palaces in the background are clearly CGI, but it's kind of like in the Brendan Fraser Mummy, is CGI that is believable and makes you still entertained to see. because it's architecture, but the train one is a train wreck, probably. But the Jerusalem scene...
They probably just ran out of effects money, I guess.
Probably, but the train scene, the Jerusalem scene reminds me of another thing. Unlike in the 74 movie, you have to understand that this story is actually really quiet and contained. It doesn't have a lot of scenarios that you need to exploit. So they needed to compensate that with a lot of scenery shots, and the scenery shots are really good in this movie. Like you get these Lord of the Rings style camera angles and like the train passes and everything, but they're really good to see. Like read some, and it's also in the directing. I think also you noticed that, Dwibs, but there are a lot of continuous shot.
Branagh really likes those. I think there was some in 4 and Cinderella.
I think they work here. One particular one that I like is when the body is discovered. You don't see the body. You just see a constant still for a while of the exterior of the cabin from the ceiling. Like you're seeing like in a Legend of Zelda game. You're seeing the floor and everything. And you see the character, but you see the character reacting and interacting to it. But despite not seeing their expressions, it's still believable. It's still believable to see how they react to the situation, despite not even seeing what's inside the cabin. They still show it later on, but you see.
Well, funny enough, this was actually one of them rare films these days where they actually film in 65 mm.
Mm-hmm.
They use film cameras because most people these days use digital. I mean, I don't care how you film the movie as long as I can see it properly. But using film is, like I said, it's pretty rare.
All right.
Just don't be like Tommy Wiseau and do both.
What a story, Dwibs.
Yeah.
Some other particular things. Oh yeah, one of the major things I love in this movie is also Johnny Depp as Ratchet / Cassetti.
All of 10 minutes you see of him.
Well, honestly, to me, it milks those well enough. And to be fair,
spoilers.
What
about Johnny Depp's character?
I think I already did by mentioning the name.
Yeah, he's Depp's character is the one that gets murdered.
Not just that, but what I'm going to say, unlike in the 74 movie, I think Ratchet's character gets developed a bit more here. You get to see him a bit more, and you get to know him and interact a bit with the other characters before interacting with Poirot and getting murdered. So I think there was some balance in his regard. The problem is also on some of the others, like I mentioned, Marcus getting so little screen time and everything. But there are also some weird choices, like in the second half of the movie, essentially when the interrogation starts, the pacing just starts to go Sonic levels of fast. Like, whereas the transition between each interrogation is weird. Like, you get to jump in between.
Yeah, like he asks them 1 or 2 questions and then bam, is on to the next.
Yeah, there is a particular sequence where he interrogates 3 people, in particular Penelope Cruz's character, William Dafoe's character, and Molly Garcia Raffles' character, and it's shot in a weird way. You get a small scene with one, then a small scene with the second, a small scene with the third, and a second round of that. It's weird. But the thing that I appreciate a bit is that, unlike the 74 movie where Poirot just stayed in one location for the most part, here he jumps all over the train to interrogate these people. It shows that it's a good trick in order to show even the other parts of the train, because the train in the story feels like its own character, kind of like a CD in a Frank Miller novel without the sexualization.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's a long train, but having them all stuffed into one garage is just kind of boring.
Yeah, we even get a sequence with him walking on top of the train. It's really hilarious, and we also lose a bit more logic here in some of the things that Poirot does. Like, for example, there was a scene in the original, in the 74 movie, where he discovers one of the ladders against Ratchet by burning the piece of paper on using one of those forgot the term, one of those trolleys, like kind of like trolleys that are exclusive to contain hats. They were a thing back in the day. Here, instead, he just uses some of the equipments of the rescuing team. So it's integrated a bit better and uses a bit more realism for practical effects.
Although, funnily enough, there's this weird bit where when he sleeps with a mustache guard.
He even had it's a thing of Poirot in general. He had the problem what I have is that the mustache holder in this movie looks too modern.
It's like
the term.
Yeah, Poirot does time travel.
Yes, he's actually the doctor.
Yeah.
and the rest of the movie pretty much has the standard formula until near the end. Like, for starters, I don't think this movie is explains well enough the tragedy of the Armstrong. Having the flashback at the beginning of the movie in the '74 movie was a strong point in order to introduce also the characters and what the relationship we had with the Armstrong family. Here, it's not glossed over, but it's explained extremely quickly. Like, I think a bit too quickly for the viewer to actually, immerse itself in this particular plot point and how the characters are acted. The fact that the interrogation are extremely fast also, it doesn't help. But there's also another particular fact. And now we're about to enter spoilers territory, so, don't...
We've kind of spoiled stuff already.
Well, now heavy stuff. So as the story unfolds, Poirot discovers that practically every single passenger was tied one way or the other to the Armstrong family, either directly or indirectly.
They all did.
Like, hold on, Dwibs, come on. And it was either parents or their, staff members, shits like that.
Basically, Depp's character did something to fuck everyone over.
Yeah, hold on. Here's the thing. When the fact that they were part of the Armstrong, life was a thing that Poirot kind of discovered bit by bit. But then, in the '74 movie, just told them during his final speech at the very end. Here, in this movie, he practically starts telling these things for each interrogation. Like, it says to his character, "Oh, I don't believe you because you were tied to the Armstrong in this way." I don't think that really works, unless for some specific characters, which I'll go in a bit. So essentially, I think the approach that the '74 movie took was a bit better in that regard, saving everything for the final speech and then closing on the whole Armstrong deal. And that didn't help it to me at all. There's also a weird filler sequence where one of the characters tried to escape the train for no reason, and Poirot chases it. Like, I guess we needed some action or something.
Maybe Branagh really missed filming action movies at that point, so he just decided
I guess. But now let me talk about one of my favorite moments of the movie, basically William Dafoe's interrogation. Like, you get a snippet during the 3-part scene that I mentioned before, but when it comes to his main interrogation, they did a special trick with the camera that they filmed him from the perspective of a prism, I think. So you see William Dafoe's face reflected 3 times. Talking. And keep in mind, this is William Dafoe, and I don't know if he overacts because I saw the dub, but he does his weird faces, so it's a marvel to see.
Yeah, well, I know you watched the Italian dub, but in the one I got, the English version, Dafoe puts on this fake German accent to start with.
Yes, he also had, because it's Dafoe's character is a Pinkerton agent, basically a secret agent in disguise. Only that in this movie he's using the disguise of an Austrian professor, but also is trying to be a Nazi for some reason. Oh, and by the way, another thing, I think you noticed that too, Dwibs. This movie is not really kind with Italians. They mentioned, I counted at least 2 or 3 times where they mentioned that Italians are pigs or something. But to be fair, 1934, so in the middle of fascist period, so we need all the criticism for that period as we can get. So yeah.
Yeah. What else is there?
The ending, like I don't understand.
Basically everyone. Basically, it turns out that everyone did it, They all
Okay.
took turns stabbing the guy. Although I reckon about halfway through he probably had been dead. So
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, Waves, the way the murder was executed, it was more ritualistic than just plain murder. It was more symbolic than anything. The 74 movie represents this better. Yeah, another thing that I mentioned, during the murder sequence, which, by the way, all the flashbacks are done in black and white, which is a nice touch. For some reason, during the actual murder sequence, which first, it's way too fast when it should be. Like the 74 movie was more imposing, like chilling. We had this weird blue lightning. You felt uncomfortable as everyone took their slow turns to do, and you felt every single time they struck that fucking knife into Ratchet. But in this one, first it's quick. Second, you don't see much because the camera is a bit too close.
it's
And third,
PG-13.
not just that, they put this weird whimsical music over it. Like,
Is that like
what?
to say, "Yay, evil Johnny Depp is dead"? Stab, 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 stab. I mean,
I guess
imagine if that happened in every other movie. You know, oh, the Emperor's.
it.
The scene where the Galactic Emperor dies. Do 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 do. Ah!
It's weird, but also the fact that it doesn't stop there. It's after briefly after this, before Poirot does his final speech, he has a sort of a final interrogation on its own with Miss Bodum. But the problem is, out of fucking nowhere, the Doctor shoots him. Like, I thought, wait, what? I guess this was another thing that they wanted to have another bit of an action scene, but it just feels out of nowhere and out of context.
I was like, wait, is this like Fox's out in case this film doesn't do enough to get a sequel or something?
I had no
Yeah,
idea.
like the bullet's still in him when the film ends, and then I think if the film doesn't do well, they'll add an extra bit to the Blu-ray saying Poirot died on the way back to his home planet or something.
But also very good. The one thing that particularly hit me was the final speech sequence. The fact that in the 74 movie, it was treated, I mean, as I mentioned, in a softer way, in a sense that every character, yes, they felt like they still made a murder, but they were treated very lightly,
Well,
and they even ended up. Hold on, they even ended with a champagne toast. So,
well, again, when Albert Finney wasn't yelling everything.
yeah, but after all this speech, I mean, here you actually feel as if these characters are very sympathetic and with a very ambiguous morality. Each of them expanded the fact of the Count's wife, the Hungarian, I think, Count's wife, of being an actual drug addict. The big pretty much tells you right in front of your face that she's an extreme barbituric addict. No punches. Pulled. But here's the thing. Right after Poirot has done his speech, he's completely pissed off. And in the story, this is the point where he says, "Oh, you need. I leave the choice to the train director because it's his company and everything." In this one, no, he actually stands his moral ground and wants actually at first to, make them all convict. So what does he do? He hands a gun to the table, which, by the way, they even had a shot that mimicked the Last Supper. Yeah, they went there. And says, "Oh, if you don't want this, just shoot me," essentially. So I forgot which actress tried. Basically, one.
Was it Michelle Pfeiffer?
I think so. Give me a check. Yeah. Miss Hubbard tries to shoot him, but oops, a surprise! It was the I remove all the bullets trick. So it's that. Then we cut to the station of Broad, and Poirot actually ultimately decides to not say anything and just, while still saying that he's gonna fight his moral ground.
Yeah, basically, Ratchet was a prick anyway.
Yeah, but here I honestly feel that this version treats a bit better this aftermath, in a sense that these characters don't feel very safe. You feel that these characters actually had committed a sin in order to cleanse their lives. unlike in the 74 movie, which again was treated more lightly in that regard. But we actually end this movie not with there's not a post-credits scene, but
a sequel hook.
Yeah, there is a sequel hook to Death on the Nile, of all things. And from what I'm reading on the Wikipedia page, apparently the sequel has been already greenlit. So,
and this film's done well enough at the box office. It cost 55 million, and it took 274 at the time of this recording. So yeah, we could be seeing that film in a couple of years or so.
I'm all for it. I mean, I don't think it was a complete better version of like the 74 movie compared to the 74 movie.
I like Branigan's Poirot more than Albert Finney, though.
True. Yeah, I think this version of Poirot is much more strong in that regard. But yeah, overall, I still think this adaptation still is very solid on its own. So all for it. The last weird thing that happened to me was the credits song. For some reason, on the credits, they put a pop song. What?
It was sung by Michelle Pfeiffer, oddly enough, I think.
I mean, she has a good singing voice, and there is only piano, but it clearly sounds like a pop song and something that was not from the time of the movie. It feels out of place at all. It's like Final Fantasy XIII ending with Leona Lewis singing "My Hands."
Well, hey, it's just like his weird mustache guard.
I guess, yeah. Also another thing that I even mentioned, one thing that this movie omits also is the character of Paul, the train attendant, the guy who needs to surveil the cabinets. He has even he has barely any roles in this, and he doesn't get interrogated unlike the other characters for some reason. It feels like the second half of the movie was a bit rushed. Like they realized they were, extinguishing the budget, so we needed to compensate all of ground and everything. I don't know. But overall, I still really liked this movie's adaptation, so no regrets. What about you, Dwibs?
I enjoyed it. I mean, there were bits I kind of felt like it was going a bit too slowly, oddly enough, not just too fast. But yeah, and again, I haven't seen any episodes of the David Suchet TV series, but yeah, I enjoyed it enough. And since the cast, maybe just Branagh and the writer are coming back for the next one, I'm looking forward to seeing that one too.
Same, pretty much. All right.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it for us. So we're probably gonna upload also the commentary of the movie soon enough after this.
Yeah.
So stay tuned also for when, as a commentary, we'll do the old version, the one with I forgot the name of the other actor of Death on the Nile, the 1978 movie with Peter Ustinov. There you go.
All right. We'll see you then.
See ya.